Welcome to This Week with CalCISO, produced by the California Cybersecurity Information Sharing Organization. Now, for this week's episode, we turn to Matt Gardner in our Northern California studios.
All right, thanks to our teams in Northern California and Los Angeles for putting all this together. It looks great, guys, and everything that you do is appreciated. This is our first episode being simulcast on our YouTube channel and all of our podcast channels. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment for us. Let us know what you think. Our This Week with CalCISO this week is a continued conversation with our partners at TruSTAR. This week we're talking with founder and CEO Patrick Coughlin. We'll get to that in just a second. But we're also proud to be kicking off the Summer of Savings here with CTC. If you've been involved in CTC, of course, you know that a main driver of engagement for startups is our suite of member benefits. And those benefits continue to expand. We've been on a real aggressive growth strategy with member benefits. And so we're really proud to be able to present the new creative suite that features offerings from partners that are new to the suite at CTC, including products like Canva. So check it out at californiatechnology.org and look for the Member Benefits tab. Along with offerings like Canva, you're also going to find that our training and certifications program has greatly expanded. So we have new offerings from companies like Adobe on training and certification. So do check that out in the training and calendar tabs as well. So we look forward to continue to expand those programs as the Summer of Savings continues. Now, a key driver of the member benefit program has been our cybersecurity initiative. For many years, CalCISO has been a convening place for cybersecurity companies, professionals, and providers, and we appreciate all the partners that we've got in CalCISO. Among the many value pieces in the CalCISO equation is the California Threat Exchange, and a key driver to the California Threat Exchange has been TruSTAR. So just before we get to that conversation with TruSTAR co-founder Patrick Coughlin, please have a look at a word from a couple of our partners.
Enjoy presentations with Canva.
Increase your ROI and your R&R with email automation from Constant Contact.
Hey, gorgeous. Michael Bolton here. You did it. Congrats on breaking up with your brokerage. It was time. You're strong and beautiful and capable. And now I'm excited to see your growth as an investor in the public.com community. I will follow you, and you will follow me.
All right, this is a continued series on This Week with CalCISO and an ongoing conversation with TruSTAR. This week we're talking with co-founder and CEO Patrick Coughlin. And since we recorded this, of course, TruSTAR has announced that they've been acquired by Splunk. So first, congratulations to the TruSTAR team. And second, we're excited about seeing what TruSTAR can do with an expanded reach and the additional capabilities of Splunk. So again, congratulations to the TruSTAR team. Here is our conversation with Patrick Coughlin at TruSTAR. On This Week with CalCISO, we're with Patrick Coughlin, the CEO of TruSTAR. Patrick, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Matt. Great to be here.
Patrick, can you tell our audience a little bit about TruSTAR and just give the sort of intro to the company?
Sure, Matt. TruSTAR is a intelligence management platform, and what that means is we help enterprises, managed security providers, and information sharing and analysis centers. So groups of companies that have come together to share intelligence. We help all these different organizations to normalize and organize their intelligence and ultimately to feed the intelligence into an ecosystem of tools to drive automation in enterprise security.
So Patrick, one thing that we're encountering
Mm-hmm.
is that every department of every company that we talk to is trying to figure out what to do with AI, whether it's in HR or the finance department or obviously the security department, and it's penetrating every aspect of business. It seems like we're kind of at the beginning still of trying to figure out how to put these tools to work. Can you describe from your point of view where we are in the sort of the state of hype of how that has developed out of machine?
Certainly. Matt, you dropped off there. Do you have me?
I do. Sorry about that. Did you only get?
I understand where you're going, but the question did not come through. Should I just answer?
I will catch it. Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, Matt, great question. I think where AI is in cybersecurity is certainly at the top of what I would call the hype cycle. You can't really swing a dead cat at the RSA conference or in any sort of discussion with vendors in cybersecurity without coming across somebody who's pitching the latest and greatest AI or ML solution for cybersecurity. And what that's done is I think it's actually been a disservice to the power of AI because it's creating a little bit of this we're moving into the trough of disillusion, and people are not seeing the outcomes from these early products that promised the latest and greatest AI solution that they had hoped for. And what I've seen is that actually security is a little bit behind the eight ball when it comes to machine learning and AI, given some of the other departments of the business that you mentioned. One of the things that we've learned here at TruSTAR and that we really focus on is being the voice of reason when it comes to how you can apply machine learning, artificial intelligence to the real problems in cybersecurity. And if you look at some of these different industries, I mean, part of the fun part of being a CEO of a growing startup is that, at the end of the day, you wear a bunch of different hats. And I'm a security operator and a security analyst by trade, I play in sales and marketing and HR and these different departments. And so I can see the different tools that are out there. And if you look at sales and marketing, for example, the interesting thing is, there are solutions out there that are AI driven or that have built in machine learning into their solution. But what they're doing is they're not promising to close the deal for the salesperson, right? They are actually solving a lower level challenge. If you ask any salesperson on the planet, like what's the part of their job that they hate, it's, well, I got to go into Salesforce and update my CRM or whatever it may be. And they spend half of their day wrangling all this contact information and making sure that it's up to date in the CRM. So when the boss comes around, their Salesforce is clean and it's managed effectively. Well, some of the most interesting AI solutions in sales and marketing are actually taking on that mission for the skilled salesperson, and they're auto managing and updating their CRM so that the salesperson can focus on doing what they do best. They're not promising to be the AI bot that's going to go in there and talk to your prospect and close the deal for you. They're taking on the data wrangling mission. And I think if you even go to B2C, you look at a company like Stitch Fix, which is kind of the paradigm for the augmentation rather than the replacement mission of machine learning. Stitch Fix didn't promise to replace the stylist, right? Stitch Fix is this company that would send you style recommendations in a box based on some of your preferences for like the clothes you like to wear. Instead, they eliminated all the background work that a stylist would have to do. So you come across a new client and they like, a certain color, they like a certain cut, a certain style. And what a stylist would then have to do was go and look across all of the internet and pull a bunch of examples of what that customer may like, and then ultimately winnow that funnel down to a few precise recommendations. Well, Stitch Fix used machine learning not to replace the stylist, but to actually go and do that initial search and pull back some of the most likely recommendations, and then the stylist can pick from those. And so it allowed this professional, highly trained stylist to do more, to service more customers, because they're spending less of their time doing the data wrangling. So similar with security, right? This early batch of products that has come out in the last 5-10 years even, that are promising the latest and greatest AI and ML. One of the challenges was that they were proposing to replace the human. Right? If the human's job in cybersecurity is effectively to do detection and response, then they were saying, well, we are the AI that will do detection and response. And the industry was consistently being let down because those highly marketed solutions weren't really performing any better than any of the legacy solutions, and they weren't certainly performing any better than the humans. And so, at TruSTAR, for example, we are taking a lesson from some of these other industries, and we say, okay, well, what is the security operator really doing in their day? And it turns out, just like those other industries, they're spending half their day wrangling data, right? They are copying and pasting indicators out of tools and into spreadsheets, and then they're defanging and refanging indicators, or they're saying, wait, no, that's not an IP address, that's a Adobe software version number, and they're cleaning this data so that they can then make these higher level decisions. And so we're pointing things like machine learning at that data wrangling mission. There's now so much signal streaming at these security analysts and operators in the enterprise that they're spending far too much of their time wrangling the data. And so, at TruSTAR, we can say, all right, give us that mission. Let us help you normalize and organize and resolve these entities so that that the data is prepared and effectively prioritized before you take it and do what only you can do, which is ultimately make a subjective decision about how to action it. And when we do that, we're allowing our highly trained security professionals to do what they do best, and we're removing the data wrangling mission. And now it's not the sexiest thing, right? And that's the challenge that I think every industry goes through with AI is you want to do the sexy thing. You want to say we can replace the human. But really, what happens is the human brain is a pretty powerful thing, and if you try to point it at that, you're not going to win. But if you move up the stack in the decision cycle and you help to clean and prepare the data, you allow the human to do more with less, and that's what we're doing at TruSTAR.
You obviously also in your role talk to CEOs from every industry and CISOs from every industry. In your view, looking for from you, and what kinds of solutions are they looking to be delivered to?
Yeah, I mean, so the number one challenge for every security leader today is that they've got too many tools, and I think this is true across a number of different industries. But if you look at the way that the sort of the economics work, funding pours into an industry like cybersecurity. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and so venture capital funding will pour into it, and as a result, you see this tool fragmentation start to percolate across the industry, where now everybody is kind of innovating on the margins, and you get a next gen endpoint, next gen SIM, next gen X, fill in the blank, and security leaders, because they're overwhelmed, are defaulting to whatever the latest and greatest analyst report from Gartner or Forrester or whatever it is says you should buy. And what happens is you end up with this almost this rat's nest of nuanced point solutions that don't talk to each other effectively. And this isn't unique to cyber, but what a data-centric approach to that, you call that integration debt. The more you try to buy these point solutions to solve these nuanced problems, the more fragmentation that you have in your enterprise, the less these things talk together. And so you actually can become less efficient. There was a study that the Ponemon Institute did in 2020, the cyber resilience study, and it said for the first time we have actually crossed the Rubicon where we have too many tools. And actually now it's not just decreasing marginal returns when you buy more tools. It is actually having a clear and present effect in your ability to detect and respond when you go over, I think the number was 48 tools. And I don't know how they got to that, but once you get to the 49th tool, all of a sudden that next purchase is now negatively affecting your ability to detect and respond. And so we're seeing this trend around, how do I rationalize all the tools that I have? How do I make sense of all these data sources that I am procuring or I'm subscribed to? How do I make sure that I'm connecting them into my workflows and getting the most out of my intelligence along the way? And so while the last decade and I would say even the last 20 years in cybersecurity has been about sort of this arms race for the security leader to tool up with the best of breed solutions and the best of breed intel sources and intel providers. Now we're coming into an era of reason where we've gone too far. We're out over our skis. We have too many tools, we have too many data sources, and we can't effectively measure how they are contributing to our ability to detect and respond. And so what we're doing in this space is, we are being the objective voice of reason, and we're saying you have to start looking at your intelligence sources and seeing how they perform for you in cybersecurity. And if you can't do that, by God, please don't buy another one. If you don't have a tool properly integrated with intelligence and you haven't stepped towards automation, please do not buy another one. And TruSTAR's role in this is to help really stitch those dots together and to make sure that when you do have valuable signal coming from an intel provider or coming from a historical event, how are you using that in the next investigation? I've been in, I don't know, probably 100 security operations centers over the last couple of years. I'm convinced that this is really fundamentally the challenge. You walk into a security operations center at even a seemingly sophisticated financial services company, and if you ask the human analyst, the person who's sitting there manning these machines and everything's blinking red, and you ask them what's the first thing they do when they see an alert, too often the answer is, well, I close my eyes and I try to think if I've seen something like this before. And God, if that's the answer, then we're going to lose, right? We're going to lose the war for the internet. Wow. And so what we have to do is stop arming these enterprise with the latest and greatest point solutions and start helping them prepare and prioritize the signal that they already have and integrate that in increasingly automated ways into the workflows of the operator.
So, Patrick, I don't mean to sidetrack us, but have we arrived at a sort of a leveling off of the signal-to-noise ratio?
Oh, God. I mean, I think that, we saw this in the intelligence community, 20 years ago, and I think 9/11 was the paradigm of that. And I know you talked to my co-founder, Paul Kurtz, who was literally in the White House on 9/11 and saw what happened when it's not just about do we have the signal anymore, right? The question isn't where can I find the signal. That used to be the question that the intelligence community was dealing with in the 20th century. But now the question is, I've got the signal. It's here somewhere. It's just buried in one of these silos. And so how do I find that programmatically and utilize it? And so have we seen a leveling off? I think the answer is probably no, because data continues to grow exponentially in these enterprises. But what we've seen is that the problem is no longer, God, how could I just find information about this attack? The information is already there. In fact, it may be in a ServiceNow ticket that you closed on the night shift, and now you're seeing something on the day shift. But if you can't correlate across those tickets or cases, right, to see that the most valuable information about this event that you're investigating was actually sitting there in a closed ticket from 6 hours ago. And instead, you're going to send a human operator off on down this rabbit hole of hunting and pecking around the internet to try to find the signal, then we're going to lose. And so I think we've certainly crossed the Rubicon in the sense that the signal exists in these enterprises. It's there. It's in your intelligence provider. It's sitting in a Splunk alert. It's sitting in a ServiceNow ticket. It's sitting in a CrowdStrike alert. Whatever the tools may be, it's already there. And now the question isn't can you find it. The question is how quickly can you bring that to bear on the current investigation so that you're not wasting your people's time hunting and pecking around. And the enterprises that do that effectively in the next 10 to 20 years, those are going to be the ones that really build the world-class risk management programs. And the ones that aren't focused on the integration and the automation challenge are going to be the ones that are constantly behind. And they're going to be trying to solve this problem of data wrangling and data management by throwing highly trained bodies at it. And what we see when that happens is people don't stay, right? If you're a trained security analyst or operator, you've gone and taken your SANS courses, you got all your certs, and then you go to work at an enterprise, a Fortune 500 enterprise, and you're spending 50% of your time copying and pasting indicators out of freaking emails into a spreadsheet and removing periods and brackets and then taking it out of that spreadsheet and putting it into a tool, you're not going to stay at that job very long. And then all of a sudden that enterprise is going to have to deal with the fact that their people are constantly turning over. Then they're backfilling their people and they think they have a people problem, right? They think they can't just retain the people well enough. But really, they're asking their people to do something they shouldn't be doing. They have a data wrangling problem, and that is where you can deploy technology.
Well, that's a huge question. Obviously, we're seeing that across all of the industries that we work with, and I know you are too. In fact, we find very different answers from people about where they're putting AI to work or allowing AI to work and how machine learning is improving that kind of decision making. So can you give your sense, Patrick, of what's the state of the art there today and what's missing from that kind of AI and machine learning product suite in security right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly there's been amazing progress, and I can point to a handful of companies that are really doing this effectively in cybersecurity. But I think that the fundamental challenge is almost a mentality shift, and instead of asking your vendors, is there a little ML or AI in this, and trying to tick a box on your RFP or your requirements list that's like, yeah, okay, AI, check, or ML, check, they've got it. What is the job to be done for machine learning and AI in cybersecurity? And I think the industry itself really is having a bit of a come to Jesus moment around that. And it goes to a bit of what I was saying before. I'm a big fan of the jobs to be done sort of framework. And you need to look at your products and ask, what is the job to be done of this particular product or this particular technology or this particular solution? And then go one level deeper and saying, what is the job of ML or AI in this? How could it really help advance the ultimate mission of this product? Instead of just saying, is it there? What is it doing? What should it be doing? And that's what's really missing. You like I said before, the job to be done for machine learning, for artificial intelligence in cybersecurity is not to do the detection and response, right? It is not to replace the human. The job to be done of machine learning, of artificial intelligence, is to help shoulder the burden of all of this data wrangling that we are currently asking our people to do. We've got one of our advisors, a guy named Chase Cunningham, who works at Forrester and a number of other places. He likes to say, I don't believe that we have a shortage of people in cybersecurity. Every year they do all these studies and they say the gap, the cybersecurity skill set gap has grown by another 2x or whatever. I mean, Matt, you've seen these things, and we're constantly, all these unfilled positions in cybersecurity, and we've got to get more people into cybersecurity. And yes, all of that is true. But why? Why do we have all these unfilled positions? And why is there this huge human capital problem in cybersecurity? It's because we're asking the human capital to do the problem that machine learning and AI can solve. And if we as an industry really kind of divorce ourselves from the allure and the sexiness and the hype of AI and really think about what are the nuts and bolts of the data challenge, I think we'll find that there is real work that can be done by these kinds of technologies, but we have to approach it from an objective sense of reason and stop pushing these technologies to replace the human and start thinking about them in the terms of how can they augment our most precious asset, which is our people.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll get back to our conversation with Patrick Coughlin in just a moment. In the meantime, here's a word from a couple of our partners.
Working remotely didn't stop Disney's a cappella sensation De Cappella. When tasked to film the under-the-sea video from home, they got all their tools fast and conveniently from Office Depot and OfficeDepot.com to keep business going.
Oh, you're here!
Welcome to your nano-degree program.
I'm so happy you could join us.
We've partnered with industry leaders to create a learning experience just for you. Let me show you around.
If you get stuck, I'll be right alongside you and your classmates to help you get unstuck.
Learning a new skill isn't just about technical ability. It's a total shift in mindset. But you've got this. You're Udacity now.
So in the industry have seen cybersecurity emerging phase for the last few years. In your experience, industries you'd point to as sort of the growth cycle and learn from what other growing industries have experienced?
Yes, I think I got that one. Pointing to other industries. Yes, I mean, great question. I'm a big fan, as I kind of mentioned in some previous comments, of looking at other industries. Security. We take a lot of pride, Matt, in being these high priests of complexity in security, where we go to the board or we go to the C-suite, and we talk about the scariness of the threat, and we talk about how when we worked in government or the intelligence community, we saw all this stuff at the NSA or wherever, and sure, Mr. or Miss C-suite person, you couldn't possibly understand the complexity of these threats that are out there. So please just, read this report or look at this scary slide that I created and give me my budget and leave me alone to go and save us from the threats that are out there. And that's served us as an industry in the last 20 years. It has allowed us to grow. It has allowed us to get a seat at the table. But if security leaders want to stay at the table, if they really want to impact the business in the next 20 years in a way that we have to, because of the role the internet is playing across all these different business units, the risk associated with that, the security of that becomes critical to the business. Well, if we're going to do that, we have to change the way that we talk, and we have to talk more like those other leaders, right? We have to talk like the way the support leader talks or the way the sales and marketing leader talks, and we can no longer just say, you couldn't possibly understand the complexity of the world that I live in, and just give me my budget and leave me alone. And so to do that, we have to bring metrics to the table, like they bring metrics to the table. if you're a support leader at a I don't know, a product company, and your job is to sort of man a network of call centers and deal with all these customer complaints and issues, you don't come to the table in the C-suite and say, you couldn't possibly understand the complexity of what I do, just give me my budget and leave me alone. You come to the table and you say, look, I've been, focusing on digital transformation and automation, and we've gone through this many requests at this speed. We've resolved them. Here's our NPS score. And you're putting these metrics on the table that the business understands. You're talking about how you're moving the needle in automation. You're talking about how you're doing more with less if you are a cost center. And at the end of the day, security and risk is a cost center. And so the metrics we bring to the table need to look like the metrics of the other cost centers. And that means we need to be talking about how we are accelerating mean time to detection. We need to be talking about how we are accelerating mean time to resolution. And we need to put these cold metrics on the table that maybe for a security operator who's relied on tradecraft and worked in the dark alleys of the Middle East and around the world, like putting these metrics on the table may seem foreign. It may seem like you're selling out to the business, but that's where we have to be. That's where impact is happening. And so security leaders of the next, and there's plenty of examples by the way, and I'm not the only one to say this. I mean, there's some amazing CISOs out there who have embraced this and brought this message to the market, and I'm just sort of echoing it. But that's how we have to talk. And so come to the table with we've deployed these solutions and we've seen mean time to detection go down by this, and we're getting through more and more events at this speed. And when you do that, watch how quickly the business steps to you. When you give these other industries a way to talk to you in a universal language, all of a sudden cybersecurity is going to start not just getting a seat at the table, but really having an impact in how well the business can scale. And that's something that I'm super excited about in this next phase. And yeah, we have to learn from these other industries.
Well, I think, Patrick, the way you framed that is literally the definition of the measurement of your impact. It's a way to address the excuse me. It's a way to address the concerns that management has about what they're installing.
That's right, Matt. We have to speak the same language, and if management has concerns about the value, right? When as a security leader, you go to the board, you go to the C-suite, and you say, I need this much budget, and if the board is saying, why? How you just asked for that? What about the budget that you asked for last time? What did that do? And if you answer that question with a slide that shows the scariness of the threat, then in this next phase, you shouldn't expect to get that budget, right? But if you answer that question with metrics that says, yes, that's right, the budget that you gave us, that had this impact on our ability to detect and respond, right? If you can show that, then the budget keeps coming, because you've given the rest of the business a way to relate to your budget requests. And that's really the next phase of cybersecurity.
So last question, Patrick. I would love for you to look forward a little bit. Maybe I'm going to use a new metaphor. There's a little bit of MacGyver in where we've been with cobbling tools together, right? We've been sticking a bunch of tools in place with duct tape and bubble gum. So if you can look forward, where do you think we're headed as an industry to improve from that condition? Yeah.
I mean, I think we have a long way to go. I like your MacGyver scenario. That I think it actually encompasses what has been the experience of a lot of security leaders in the past, which is you kind of parachute into an enterprise and you get your budget and you say, all right, I need a Gatorade bottle, an avocado, a rubber band, and I can make a pipe bomb out of this or whatever it is. And And I think you're right. And I think in the future, what we're seeing is that two things. One, there is not one ring to rule them all in cybersecurity, so to speak. And what I mean by that is there's always this promise that the next gen SIM or firewall or SOAR or whatever the newest sort of analyst speak is going to actually be the thing, the one thing that gets us out of this mess. But that's not the reality, right? We are going to live in a world of patchwork solutions just by the nature of the way these products compete. There's not going to be a single product, and you're seeing this in cloud. When you look at the war amongst the cloud providers, whether it's AWS or Google or Microsoft or IBM trying to play or whatever it is. We're seeing enterprises not just pick one cloud provider, right? They want to diversify. They don't want to have the lock-in, and so they're sending different workloads to different cloud providers. And so there's not going to be one ring to rule them all. And that means there's not going to be one data model to rule them all. And that means there's not going to be one schema or one API to rule them all. And so you have to think about how are you normalizing and organizing data so it can connect across these different solutions, across these different cloud environments. And TruSTAR is positioning itself to help with that normalization mission. And so we're going to see people stop thinking about their architecture as the tools, right, that they have. And they're going to start thinking about their architecture in a data-centric mentality of where are my data assets, right? What signal do I have? Tools will come and go. I'm going to switch out this SIM for that SIM. I'm going to switch out that endpoint for this endpoint. But the data is actually the primary asset in your architecture. And so how do you normalize, organize that data, and feed it into an ecosystem of tools that will be ever evolving? And that's the shift that I think the security leaders are going through. It's the shift that I think the leaders across different elements of the business are going through. Where's the signal, and stop over-indexing so much on the tools as the primary asset in the architecture.
Patrick Coughlin, CEO of TruSTAR, thank you for spending a little bit of your week on This Week with CalCISO.
Thanks, Matt.
That's it for This Week with CalCISO. This has been a conversation with Patrick Coughlin, co-founder and CEO of TruSTAR. Thanks to the whole TruSTAR team for helping us put this series together. We'll look forward to continuing this conversation with TruSTAR in the next episode. In the meantime, once again, we invite you to check out the California Threat Exchange, everything in the member benefit portfolio, and the calendar, training, and certification programs at californiatechnology.org. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Once again, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube or podcast channels on Apple and Google, we invite you to do so. And of course, we want to hear from you. So if you have a topic, a suggestion, or a comment, we invite you to send that in anytime. You can write to us at podcast@californiatechnology.org. Thanks for joining us for This Week with CalCISO. See you next time.